What drove me initially was get out of debt and find something in my life I could plant my flag, and I would get pride from that, and I would get a drive from that. It's not on the P&L statement, but it's the energy that drives the performance on that P&L statement. And it's everything. It's just wrapped and enriched in our culture.
You have a quote from Dave Ramsey, Jonathan, that says, like, the best place to go when you're broke is work, right? And you literally just did it. You went out and worked.
But I think the greatest moments I ever had was when my mom, or even as a small child, my dad would say, "I'm proud of you." And so Mr. Jenkins would display that, not just to me, but to every team member. It's rooted in our organization. We will be compassionate. We will be humane. But the business is going to continue to grow up and to the right, and we want you to be a part of that, but it's up to you to continue to grow with us.
Look, celebrate everything you want to see more of, because I put the because in there. You can't mandate performance, you can only inspire it.
Man, what a fantastic trade. I think it's the greatest job of all time.
Welcome to the $100 Million Mindset, the source for business owners who aspire to scale, grow, and reach their full potential. Whether you're aiming for 5 million, 10 million, or 100 million. Your hosts are Alan O'Neill, the Irish plumber, who scaled Abacus Plumbing and Cooling to over 100 million, and too late, Todd Liles, a coach to high-performing business leaders and the owner of Service Excellence, are going to help you think bigger, act smarter, and take your business to the next level.
Today's guest is a true student of leadership, and now he is a master of it. It's Jonathan Bancroft, and Jonathan started his career as a $9 an hour apprentice at Morris Jenkins, and he rose to become the CEO of one of the most admired home service companies in the country. Under his leadership, of course, along with Mr. Jenkins, Morris Jenkins scaled from 5 million to 100 million, and that's all in one single location. He is also the author of Mr. Jenkins Told Me, a book of forgotten business principles rooted in humility, celebration, and simplicity. Today, Jonathan serves as regional CEO of the Mid-Atlantic region for Wrench Group. Jonathan, welcome to the show.
Oh, it's a pleasure to be here. Thank you for having me, Todd and Alan. And very humbled by that introduction, but great to be here and be a part of the Service Nation.
Jonathan's journey began back in 1999 at the bottom, literally. He started as an apprentice, worked his way into sales, and became one of the top producing HVAC salespeople in the country before being handpicked by Mr. Jenkins himself to lead the company. Jonathan, you started at $9 an hour, renting a room, working 6 days a week. Take us back to those early days. What kept you moving forward?
Well, that's a great question, Alan. What kept me moving forward was I was broke. I was tens of thousands of dollars in debt, and so let's be honest. I was look. I grew up with a good background. I lost my father at the age of 7 in an automobile accident. He was an architect, and so your father at that age is your hero. So guess what I thought I wanted to be when I grew up? I was going to be an architect, and so I took every drafting and AutoCAD class I could, and I got into some architecture schools, and I went to school. But, I came from I would say the low side of middle class at best, and I had to work. I've had a job since I was 11 cutting grass, and as soon as I could get a W-2 job at 15, I've just constantly worked. And to buy a car, to put gas in the car, to pay for books, to go to school. And a vicious cycle started because I kind of underestimated how expensive that education was going to be. And I started mounting debt. And so, and then I got to architecture school, and it wasn't what I thought. I didn't love it. And it was a lot more artsy than I want to just lay out and draw buildings. And so if you can imagine, now I'm in my early 20s, and what I thought I was going to be wasn't panning out. Now I'm tens of thousands of dollars in debt. I'm getting credit letters. They're going to repossess my little pickup truck. And, I'm trying to do good by my good buddy who we rent an apartment and, at least pay the rent. And boy, I found myself in a tough spot. And I I went home for Sunday dinner at Mama's house, and I thought it was just going to be Mama, and I wasn't going to ask her for money. I needed her to hear me and listen to me and give me some Mama advice. And lo and behold, I didn't know there were going to be a lot of other people at this dinner, and there were. And one of the people was a friend of hers from her church, and she kept talking about this place called Morris Jenkins, and they were looking for young folks to join, and it was HVAC, to join the trades, and they would teach you. And so here I am thinking, well, hey, that might be for me. And I circled back with Mom, got the information, and made a call over to Morris Jenkins. This is in late 1998, and had an interview with Mr. Powell, and he gave me the job on the spot. Says show up January 11, 1999. And I remember he was kind of, it's monkey see, monkey do. We're going to throw you against the wall and see if you stick. And I mean, I had a job making like $12, $13 an hour. So I took a pretty sizable pay cut to take a chance in a flyer to join this crazy world of home services. So that's the origin story. And I found myself there on January 11th, 1999, busy day. It was a cold weekend. Phones were ringing off the hook. Man, I got forgotten about for a couple of days. They told me to go sit in a warehouse. And I about didn't come back after day one. I almost didn't come back after day two, but I stuck with it. And I'm shy. I'm a little bit of an introvert, kind of a hermit. And I just had to kind of take the reins myself. And I jumped up and I jumped in the truck with Chuck, and we went off riding around for a couple of weeks. And I was seeing everything, changing heat exchangers, inducer draft motors, compressors, capacitors, doing simple tune-ups. And I fell in love with it really, really quickly. And the goal there was for me to be a maintenance technician. Like, are you kidding me? They're in just a few short weeks, they're going to teach me enough and give me a truck and then, provide me with customers to go see and solve their problems. And there was like this different view outside of the windscreen every day with different people. And so I very quickly liked it. And not long after that, I fell in love with it. And my goal there was we had 16 technicians in the entire company. We have a few more today. um, and I remember looking at that technician room, looking both sides. I'm like, dadgummit, if these guys can do it, so can I. And my goal at that time was to be the tech that they would send when nobody else could fix it. And I was probably one of the youngest guys in the room, not married at the time. I was willing to go. I mean, we kind of, this is back in the 90s, Alan. We shut the phones down at 5, 6 o'clock, right? Yeah. So did you, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I was the one that like run the after hours calls. And I mean, I barely knew what I was doing, but it was very much walk to school, no shoes in the snow, uphill both ways. We just didn't have the teaching and the education that our organization does today. But it was, I had some good people around me, and yeah, I wanted to just be a great technician. And, about a year and a half into that, it was a 7 a.m. Monday morning technician meeting, and my manager was at the door. The general manager was at the door, and there was a little window there, and he was doing one of these. I mean, a minute before the meeting started, and he called me out, and I thought I was in trouble. And he said he wanted to take me to breakfast. And I was like, man, what did I do wrong? Do they take you to breakfast and fire you there? And lo and behold, this crazy opportunity, they were going to add a third salesperson. And I mean, I was a maintenance technician. And really at that time, I was what's called a CTS technician, check, test, start. I was going behind the install crews, doing the final braze and refrigerant charging of the units and setting the airflow. And I mean, I wasn't selling anything, but they had seen something in me, and they had, and that warmed my heart. And they offered me this position to go into sales. And I actually told Mr. Powell at that point, because he was the general manager at that time, I'm gonna think about it. I didn't say yes. And my mom was really ill at that point. She was dying of cancer, and I went home and I conferred with my mama once again, and she gave me some great sage advice. Doors open and doors close. And those doors may open again one day, but you never know when they will. Remember, I was so focused on being super tech,
Yeah, yeah.
and I thought sales was way down the road, maybe. And I took that advice and I said, the door's open right now. And I jumped in, and that started an awesome 11 and a half, 12-year run in HVAC in-home retrofit sales. And boy, I didn't know what I was doing, but I had some great mentors and masters there. And so I'm talking a lot. That was a big answer to your question. But what drove me initially was get out of debt and find something in my life I could plant my flag,
Mm.
and I would get pride from that, and I would get a drive from that. And I would have never thought it was going to be HVAC. Now HVAC, plumbing, electrical, home services. But man, what a fantastic trade. I think it's the greatest job of all time.
You remind me of a quote from Dave Ramsey, Jonathan, that says like the best place to go when you're broke is work,
Yep.
right? And you literally just did it. You went out and worked.
Absolutely. Alan and Jonathan, when I was going through the book, I kept finding so many parallels to my life, which is one of the reasons why I think I fell in love with the book, Jonathan, right? My father did not pass away at a young age, but he was gone at a young age. So I was working at the age of 11 as well to make money, and then was pretty much full time working by 14. But as I was reading through the book, there were so many moments when it was clear to me, at least I felt this way, that the book was a learning lesson for the world, but it was also a reflection of your appreciation for Mr. Jenkins. And later I'd like to explore that with you because it sure seems like he ended up being like a father figure to you. Um, but the thing that I want to ask you about right now, which forgive me if my memory isn't just recalling, but first of all, I laughed when I read about Chuck in a truck that you got in with, and he wasn't your typical Chuck in a truck, but he was Chuck in the truck that you got in with. But and
Right.
then the thing that I found myself wondering on was what was the moment when you got thrust into leadership, or maybe you decided. I want to explore that when it's like, okay, you realize that your future in HVAC isn't just being an amazing comfort advisor, but now it's actually being a leader of men and women. So can you tell us about that?
Sure. Yeah. So, boy, a lot of time has gone past to this point, but Mr. Jenkins, so let's go ahead and say it. I married the boss's daughter.
Smart
So,
move. Smart move. Good
yeah,
move.
I'm not the SOB, but I am the slob, son-in-law of the boss. But Mr. Jenkins and Mrs. Jenkins became father and mother figures to me. Still to this day, they're doing well. A crazy story. I'm like just a few months into sales, and I walk in the office, and there's somebody painting the interior of the office, the entryway there, and she has long blonde hair. And I just kind of walked by and I was like, my goodness, Mr. Jenkins hires some good looking painters around here. And lo and behold, I went to my sales coordinator, Miss Melissa, and she said, that's Mr. Jenkins' oldest daughter. She just graduated college, and she's coming to work at Morris Jenkins. She's going to be our very first marketing director. And I'm never in the office, as you guys know. I mean, when this was back when you had to turn in paperwork, right? And so when I was in the office, it was just largely to do that, or maybe a meeting. And but they put Blair's desk as the marketing director right next to mine. We established a friendship. Got the nerve up to ask her out to a first date minor league baseball game. And I think my one panic attack that I've had in my life is I found myself at Mr. Jenkins' doorstep because she had graduated from college, moved. She was living in the basement of her house too. So I went to my boss's house to take his daughter out on a date. And I kind of speak of that in the book because I'm like, gosh darn it, I love my job. And if this doesn't work out, I may have put myself in a bad position, but it did work out. And I feel like I found my soulmate, and I did. And so we got married a couple years later, and we have a lovely family today. We have twins, Jack and Lily. And so that run of 12 years in sales, my thought was kind of an old world thinking of one day Mr. Jenkins will probably sell the business. And when he does, I'm probably the first person that whoever they are going to get rid of, the son-in-law. And so I'll just, keep my head down and sell to the very best of my ability, taking care of our customers, and, cross that bridge when we come to it. And that was it.
Wow.
And about the year 2011, Mr. Jenkins called a family meeting. And at that family meeting, he said, we're either going to sell the business or we're going to keep the business in the family. But if we're going to keep the business in the family, we're going to have a succession plan. Now, remember, I'm the son-in-law. There's two daughters, my wife, Blair, her sister, Kelly, who was working in the business. And so I'm just sitting there at the table, respectfully. And they all looked at me and they all pointed to me. And man, I love Marsh Jenkins. The blue and yellow of Marsh Jenkins is in my veins. And so I wasn't going to let it fail. Blair had retired at that point from her job to stay at home with our kids. And Kelly was wanting to kind of go do some other stuff. And so that was the moment where we set in place the succession plan. And it wasn't immediate. It wasn't that I was going to get out of the truck as a comfort advisor and become CEO of Marsh Jenkins. Mm-hmm. And my thought was, okay, I'll get out of the truck and maybe sit at the edge of Mr. Jenkins' desk and learn what he does. Oh, no. They threw me at every problem and every fire that they could. And that was just a phenomenal, looking back on it now, crash course, but a real world, genuine, sincere way for me to kind of understand the business. Mm-hmm. And I was a rookie service manager of our maintenance technicians. Our maintenance technicians were just cast among the general population of our technicians. And I thought, man, this is the future of our company here. And they actually now have a curriculum, and we're growing them through, specific training. They have a teacher. It's not the way I came through it, but they need to have some leadership. They need to have some management. And so I kind of carved them out of the general population of the technicians. We set our own meeting morning. We set our own meeting curriculum, our own training. And so that was my rookie management job, not leadership, management. I'm a true believer that management and leadership are two entirely different things. From there, I did that. I was HVAC installation manager for a cup of coffee. I was our communications trainer. And so I was back to service again. I was, running around doing different positions. And, I was a part of the senior management team. And that, over those 3-4 years, that's where my world opened up. And I started spending serious time with Mr. Jenkins and understanding what he did and what he thought about. And I started to understand the time that he was spending in the outside world, not like not working in the business, but working on the business by trying to go to the outside world to find the very best of that outside world. And he would start taking me to our mixed group. We were in an ACCA mixed group. We've been in several. I got included in that. We joined Nexstar. Before that, we were with Airtime 500. We started going outside of the industry. We started following Vern Harnish and going to his Scaling Up seminars. He's the author of Mastering the Rockefeller Habits and later Scaling Up. And man, I'm sitting in these rooms listening to Patrick Lencioni and meeting Jim Collins and getting to meet Mark Cuban, and just, the list goes on and on. And we're stacking up books and reading books, and we're trying to figure out, what are the foundational principles of this organization. And from that, a few short years later, we found what those 6 foundational principles were, and we used other authors, other thought leaders, to cement that into our education program here at Marsh Jenkins University to build our people. And, that was a magical time. It was known that I would one day become the leader of the business, but that was my maturation time. of understanding what it was going to take when I did get the seat. And so, yeah, that's sort of the timeline on that.
Jonathan, you alluded to some of it, but what was, well, a two-part question. So what was it like being mentored by Mr. Jenkins himself? And then secondly, a curiosity question. Did you ever find yourself completely at odds with him? Like just you were polar opposite views on something, and how did you resolve it?
Yeah, great question. It was magical. I think to be very genuine here, it was a great golf tournament this past weekend, the Masters, and I happened to watch Rory McIlroy in his press conference, and one of the first things he said was, "It takes a little bit of luck." I was playing well, but it took a little bit of luck. And if you watched any of those shots he hit coming down the stretch, there were a couple lucky shots. So I found myself, I won't say lucky, but very fortunate that I found myself on Dewey Jenkins' doorstep many years ago in a state of desperation that I only look back now and can appreciate the level of desperation that I was in. And so being mentored by him, I've never seen him angry. I've never seen him just visibly upset or mad. He's a calming presence. He is so rooted in common sense. He always says the right thing. He is one of the best active listeners that I've ever seen in my life. His smile lights up a room. He's just genuine, sincere. How fortunate I am that I found myself of all the places at his organization. And yet he's self-taught and he's self-made. And he's a student himself still to this day. I think that he would cringe if you called him a master. I kind of cringe if you called me a master. I understand, but like we're still students today, trying to find that best of the outside world that makes sense for the people that we love and care about on our team, to help grow them to have a better tomorrow than they're having today. And so it was just phenomenal to have that mentorship. And I think that yeah, he very much became a father figure to me. And, I think that there's a lot of power when somebody says, "I'm proud of you." If you think back growing up, um, the words "I love you" are very powerful. But I think the greatest moments I ever had was when my mom, or even as a small child, my dad would say, "I'm proud of you." And so Mr. Jenkins would display that, not just to me, but to every team member. It's rooted in our organization. It's rooted in how we celebrate, we give public praise to folks, and how we operate our organization. So yeah, it was. And what was the second part of that question?
Did you ever completely disagree or
Oh,
yeah?
um, you know, I probably have at a time or two. And Mr. Jenkins would just smile, that big smile, and listen to me and restate his position, and I would just melt like butter. And I say,
Wise move, Jonathan. Yeah.
hey, and you know what? It wasn't that I was waving the white flag. Mr. Jenkins was right, and he helped me see the light by just kind of restating the narrative and the position, and because it was rooted in wisdom. And it was rooted in both pressure and time. He had been through all of this. And so what was it for me to try to second guess that? And I remember as a rookie president in 2014, he handed off to me the stack of anniversary cards. We're talking like 25 anniversary cards, which was a big month. I just completed April, and I wrote 75 anniversary cards, handwritten, for 1 month. And, so if you're really going to sit down and write a few sentences to a team member and give it some thought, I take a lot of time in doing that. I'm still doing it today. But I remember at the time I was like, can't we just get like a rubber stamp and, I just sign it? And he was like, "No, Jonathan, no." And so he helped me understand and appreciate that moment of, there again, that's kind of private praise, because we're actually writing an anniversary note to a team member. and we're going to send it to their home. We're going to lick it and stamp it and mail it out. And it's a tradition that stands today. And I think it's meaningful that, it helps me stay connected with the entire team, now over 630 folks. And I fought him a little bit on that, but he made me see the light. And I think it's a tradition that still stands today. I'm passing that on to the new president at Marsh Jenkins, and he's fighting it a little bit as well. I'm like, no, we're going to continue this.
That's great. That's great, Jonathan.
You're. I'm going to say on the subject of celebration. There's a quote in the book: "Celebrate everything you want to see more of, because you." I put the because in there. You can't mandate performance; you can only inspire it. I think that I counted 18 of these traditions that you guys have. Handwritten anniversary notes was one I definitely took from that. Building stronger systems, but really, what seemed to be at the core of it to me was celebrations. And everything could be celebrated. And you tell stories in there about reading customer testimonials that come in, just taking a moment to recognize everybody in their moments. And I love that too, because that's the way we kick off our team meetings. Is we always start with wins. Let's hear the wins. Let's celebrate them, right? The fundamental difference, and I've picked it up from you, and I'm going to make that adoption, is that we often have people bring their wins, and later on we do company wins where we highlight someone else's. I'm going to do company wins where we are highlighting someone else at the top. Thank you for that. So let's talk about celebration. Why is that so important to you guys at Marsh Jenkins?
Yeah, it's absolutely important. It's paramount. It's just rooted in our culture. The most important thing about celebration is take action and do it repeatedly, and do it for the smallest things up to the largest things, and do it publicly. There's a lot of folks that don't want to get up at a meeting with 100 people in the room and go up to the front and have somebody talk nice about them, especially the introverts that are listening on this podcast. But and I may be one of those, but it comes back to that moment of pride and how happy we are for them. And so it's rooted in everything. Our meetings at Marsh Jenkins. I've spent so much time on meetings. There are some really bad meetings in our world, and so we're very conscious about making sure that our weekly meetings, we're providing the right information, the things that our folks need to know. We are wrapping them around our culture, and part of that culture is the celebration. It could be something as simple as a happy note from a customer, or just a 5-star online review. We've created a review hall of fame at Marsh Jenkins. We actually have a very small committee that votes on that. And so, these are all-star reviews that are cemented on the wall at Marsh Jenkins and will live forever, I'd like to think. And so, it could be something as simple as that. How about service awards? We don't have employee of the month. Don't ever do that. But something as simple as 5, 10, 15, 20-year service awards. We make sure we do those at all company events. And we give a really nice memento, kind of trophy plaque for the folks, and say some nice words about them. And so, yeah, everything that we do is about celebration. And because that brings the glue and the unity of what we're trying to accomplish. We have these values at the business, and then we have this core purpose. And man, let's have fun, right? Let's have fun at what we're doing. It's not rocket science, The nobility of world peace and curing cancer and all those things that are super important. We're here just to serve our customers and to do it at the very best of our ability in our own genuine skin. Is, hey, let's have fun doing it. So celebration is at the core of everything that we do. But if you go to the center of the building at Marsh Jenkins, there's a confluence of just many hallways that come together. And on those walls are our Marsh Jenkins champions. And there's a picture, big picture, and their year of accomplishment. And we have some folks on that wall that are 14, 15, 16-time champions. and then right down that, and I mean it covers every wall as far as you can see. And down from that also, we have a lot of pride. We honor all of our licensees. We have more North Carolina state licensees and South Carolina state licensees than anybody else in the state, in those two states. Second place is not even close. And we pay for all of the education, all of the books, and then I pay for the renewal fees on those state licenses every year. Todd and Allen, not one person that I've helped get their own state licenses ever left Morris Jenkins. And that's the old world thinking that, man, you help Timmy over here go get his state license. He's going to do what? Leave you. Not one has ever left me. And so we celebrate that. I mean, we bring everybody together the moment we put their picture on the wall and their year of accomplishment and the type of license that they have. So, yeah, I mean, celebration, it's not on the P&L statement, but it's the energy that drives the performance on that P&L statement. And it's everything. It's just enwrapped and enriched in our culture.
Something that occurred to me, Jonathan, over the years as we celebrated people at our company at Abacus, and indeed it came to me as we were at the award ceremony last weekend or 2 weekends ago for the Wrench Group, is some of these technicians, it's the first time in their lives that they've ever been publicly recognized, and we're building confidence in people, I think, and improving them as human beings. And, you know, winning service awards with the Better Business Bureau and places like that is great, but improving somebody's self-confidence and sending them home to their family more confident and a better human being, to me, that's the greatest prize of all. And clearly at Morris Jenkins, that's super important. You know? So I just want to give you kudos for that, Jonathan, because you clearly figured that out a long time ago. So that's great. So, Jonathan, from the apprentice to CEO, let's dig in a little bit to that journey along the way. Go ahead, Todd.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Alan. I was sitting here contemplating some of the things that he said, to be frank, and was spinning my brain up a little bit. But um, I want to go back, if it's all right, Alan. I'm going to jump to our third question
Sure.
here, because part of what's spinning up in my brain here is you guys are continuing to grow, but I heard you say something that I don't think I was aware of, which is you're training the next president. And these things that Mr. Jenkins spent all these years ingraining in you, now they're in you, like handwriting anniversary cards. My question is actually a little bit centered around, how are you guys preserving this? Because you guys have a very unique culture, and it's one that's rooted in you. It's one that's rooted in Mr. Jenkins. And a while back, you guys decided to join Wrench Group, and you've joined that. So really, at some point, it's possible that the origins are going to be gone. So the president, is he Morris Jenkins' blue blood? Is he outside of Morris Jenkins? But the real question is, are you fearful of what you guys built fading away as generation changes occur?
That's a great question. And I will start by answering that question with a lesson from Dewey Jenkins. As a rookie manager, so it was probably 2011, 2012, we had monthly departmental meetings. About 30, 35. These are all the director, manager, supervisors. I'm a rookie manager in the room. I've got my notepad out, my pen, I'm ready to scribble down. Mr. Jenkins, the ultimate teacher in this room. We would meet at 7 a.m. for 2 hours once a month. And this was all education. And I vividly remember Mr. Jenkins coming to the podium and saying these words: an organization will only grow as large as the key people that represent it.
Mm-hmm.
And I wrote that down, and I still think about that every day. And what Mr. Jenkins was doing in that environment is he understood that for us to be a growth organization, we had to concurrently be a learning organization. And that was sort of the Mr. Jenkins moment where he set apart building Morris Jenkins University. I would later come and kind of put the walls up for it, but it was that moment where we started just voraciously working on bettering people, growing people. And I remember after that meeting, the 30 people in the room, I circled back with Mr. Jenkins and I said, Mr. Jenkins, everybody heard you. And I saw most people write it down. But I'm not sure all 30 people really grasped not just that saying, but the lesson that came behind it. And he just smiled again and he said, Jonathan, I know. I said that message to about 5 people. And if anybody else around that 5 happened to get it, that's wonderful. That's great. And so there was another lesson within the lesson that let's share the best of this outside world and our beliefs with the greater community and see what sticks and see which people on our team really grasp at that and start to work on themselves. So that started our learning journey. It's culminated today in that we have an entire university, brick and mortar university. I have full-time educators, professional educators, staff. We have former high school principals, teachers of the year, masters in education, communication trainers, technical trainers. That's expensive stuff. And it's worth every dang penny because we're building our own people. We're building those key people that will grow our organization in the future. Brandon Anderson became the president last September. I could have continued, but Brandon was approaching 20 years. His origin story is very much like mine. Brandon started out as an HVAC install apprentice and then became a crew leader and then was a service tech. And we had some conflict and chaos at a moment in our service department some 15 years ago, and I needed we had like one supervisor for what felt like 60 techs, and I needed to add a supervisor, and Brandon was the logical choice. And as a rookie president, maybe about 9 years ago, I had to make a move with the leadership of the service department. Brandon became the service manager, service director. He became our first chief operations officer in 2018. This is all prior to Wrench Group. And when it came time that we joined the Wrench Group, the only people in that room meeting with them were myself, Mr. Jenkins, and I brought Brandon. And I look back on it now, and it was a great way to show kind of the origin with Mr. Jenkins. He had a part in that. I was the president, and they could see the future with Brandon, coming behind me. And just this past September, I just felt in my bones it was time to let Brandon take the reins of that. But Brandon, at 20 years, guess what? He was a student of Mr. Jenkins just as I was. So he was in those departmental meetings. He was one of those key people that was voraciously taking notes and writing things down. And the story doesn't stop there. There's a multitude of people, whether directors, managers, chief ofs, running departments, top performers, that are very much rooted in our belief structure, what we're learning, and our students of Mr. Jenkins. And we've protected the culture and the things that Mr. Jenkins has taught us through our weekly meetings, what we discuss. This book right here.
Great book.
On day one, every person on Mondays, there's an orientation every Monday at Morris Jenkins, 52 times a year. And they get that in their back to go home with them. The book is now on audio. We make sure they get it up on their iPad, their phone, their device, so they can listen to it for free. And so we speak of our culture, but the most important thing is our actions, and the things that Mr. Jenkins taught me and Brandon live on. I mean, they live on. It's rooted in our university. So am I fearful? Look, I don't live in fear. And I'm so proud of what Mr. Jenkins did for all of us. And I'm proud of the hard work, the conscious effort that we've done to protect it and move it forward, that I think it's going to be pretty hard in my lifetime to ever see that die out.
That's
And
awesome.
that's pretty special.
It's fantastic. A quote that stood out to me, Jonathan, was you said, complexity chokes growth, simplicity is hard, but that's what we're here to do. So, Morris Jenkins got to 100 million without franchising or really expanding locations. How did you do that, Jonathan? What would you say were the keys to getting to 100 million? And just, sorry, another question that struck me is, what does Mr. Jenkins think about the company today? Like, what's his worldview of the company today?
Okay. So after a couple ACCA mixed groups, I was very blessed to join a group that Alan, you know him very well, Kevin Comerford, ran a group. Paul Kelly was in that group. It was the what we call the families group. It wasn't affiliated with anything, but this was sort of the who's who group. I mean, we had at one time Ken Haynes in there, Jimmy Hiller, Dave Geiger. I mean, this was a who's who group. Gus Santos, Milestone down in Dallas. We just had some phenomenal people, and kind of one by one, this some of them started going multi-location, and then we had some private equity movement that we've seen over the last few years happen, and I just kind of looked at it as, look, I was always like, how do we jump and go 150 miles to another city and keep the culture of Morris Jenkins the same as it is in our hometown? Not that it's impossible, but that's really hard. That's going to make it a complex equation. And then we were also blessed to be in Charlotte. And Charlotte's a great city. It's one of the fastest growing towns in America. It's a great place to raise a family. Right now we're up over 2.8, 2.9 million people in our metro area. We can largely kind of still get around our town. Traffic's becoming a little dicey, but I mean, we operate like 7 counties around Charlotte out of one location. And so the process of when we did join the Wrench Group, I was kind of scratching my head thinking, are we the largest private home service business, family owned, in like a major top 25 market, which Charlotte is? And I kind of conferred that we were. And so that's cool. But we grew it by keeping the business simple. Alan, you will know this. Todd, you're well aware of this as well. I mean, I can get a daily report, and I do, with a multitude of KPIs. And we can slice and dice our business so many different ways. But the reality of it is this. Our business is really driven off of 3, 4, 5 things. At the top for me is we just want to take awesome care of our customers. We want to delight them, give them an old-fashioned service that they probably thought was dead and gone. We want to grow our revenues, and we want to control our expenses so that we are responsibly profitable. And so when it really comes down to those just 3 or 4 things, it's really easy. A business left to its own devices, and I learned this from Mr. Jenkins, a business left to its own devices is going to grow in complexity. Right now, we're on a podcast. And if nobody else was back at our businesses paying attention to it, our business right now is growing in complexity. Humans like to throw more things at it. We like to take an XY axis and make it 3-dimensional and 4-dimensional. And we just kind of get caught up in all that. And at the end of the day, the customer says, hey, I woke up today not thinking I was going to have an issue, and I do. And I just really want you and your delightful people to solve it. So let's keep it simple. And I'm telling you, throughout these mixed groups and families groups and, just sharing best practices with people, I would see that in the very best businesses in America, when they would hit a moment of stall or pause or have issues in their business along their growth journey, it was because their business was becoming just this behemoth web of complexity. And Mr. Jenkins taught us and was adamant about staying to the core of what we believed in. Kind of going back to one of the earlier questions, Mr. Jenkins was like, we're just going to stay HVAC. Part of our growth was when we brought plumbing on. We started putting in water heaters, and then we hired this champion plumber, And he kept whispering to me, man, I tell you what, when you want to do full service plumbing, all the best plumbers are just sitting at their shops where, all your competitors, they're ready to come to Marsh Jenkins when you pull the trigger. And Mr. Jenkins kind of, he and I didn't see eye to eye. And then we came to a conclusion that would be the right thing, because there again, we were so adamant on staying just with blinders on. We know HVAC, we're HVAC guys, but it took that moment to see that, wait a minute, we have a champion plumber over here. Can we add plumbing? And that was explosive for our growth, circa 2016, 17, 18. And now we've added electrical, and we're growing in leaps and bounds in that. So we've got to keep it really, really simple. And it's very easy to follow the niche, the new, and you need to be aware of all of those things that are happening. But we really drive our business off of just 3 or 4 things.
That's very helpful. Alan, I'm going to ask a different question than what I've got written down.
Sure.
First of all, I love your phraseology. I love a pithy statement. I love old-fashioned service they thought was dead.
Mhm.
I'm going to quote you on that. But here's the question. You said responsibly profitable. I agree. For the listener today that may not understand what that looks like, would you unpack, in your opinion, what responsibly profitable is?
Well, I'm gonna go ahead and say that this is a little long, a little old, but Mr. Jenkins told me, ... that this is going back a number of years. At 5%, you're on life support. You're about dead. At 10%, you're a good business, and at 15%, you're a great business. That's moved a little bit. And to put it in context, if you're whether you're EBITDA or EBIT, 5%, you are on life support. After tax man comes, you're not making any money. And 10% was, a good stable business. I mean, going back 15 years ago, I was grouping with some behemoth businesses in large, super large markets. And, they thought they were the cat's meow, scratching out 8, 9% profitability. And so, after taxes and then being able to spend the money to reinvest in the business to keep it growing. And remember, we're a growth organization, but if we're a learning organization, you got to spend on that. Yeah, it's even hard at 10%. And then 15% was kind of the great marker. We've now seen businesses, whether in Wrench Group or otherwise, pushing, through the 20%, marker there. So that was a mantra that kind of stood for me. And being responsibly profitable is building into your budget an appropriate amount to protect your people. Some of our celebrations are more than $1. We put on big galas, and we give them Super Bowl rings for accomplishing things, and we have big parties. We just had a food truck Thursday last week that was spectacular. I had like 6 food trucks just all day in the back of Marsh Jenkins. Hey, in between calls, come on by. We'll put it on the board and get you in and get what you want, give them tickets, and invite your family and your kids too. So when I say responsibly profitable, you have to build in protecting the culture, celebrating with your people. Mr. Jenkins also guided our philanthropy. And I remember like 20 years ago, we would have the Charlotte Warm Heat Fund. We were doing a couple Habitat for Humanity homes. We were doing this, we were doing that, all noble things. And we had an experience with the birth of our twins where we almost lost Jack, our son, in neonatal, and he has to stay behind the NICU. And the wonderful doctors and nurses at Levine Children's Hospital here in Charlotte just moved us, and it moved Mr. Jenkins. And he said, well, these are all noble things. What if we guided all of our philanthropy at the business to the Levine Children's Hospital? And Levine Children's is quickly becoming one of America's top children's hospitals. And it's right here in our town, helping our people. And there's people from all 50 states coming to it. And so I said that because we build into our budget a responsible philanthropy, giving back to the community, being good stewards of all of our neighbors around us. And so if you can do that and grow people and still have a responsible profitability. And if it becomes a little bit more responsibility, give it back to the folks, give it back to the people. That's awesome. Now you may say, well, wait a minute, John, you're now in the wrench group and there's private equity. And yeah, it's still there, but we still have a large level of autonomy and they help guide us on that. And they, all of those things I just spoke of at the wrench group, they want the same thing for all of our locations. And that's why joining the wrench group was the right choice for me. So I hope that answers your
Yeah,
question.
that's great. Thank you.
Jonathan, you talk a lot about emotional intelligence. How does that shape leadership in a growing company?
That's a great question. One of our 6 fundamentals is team dynamics, building a cohesive high performance or high performing team. And really the author that we use for that, the greatest I've ever found, and I'm giving him a free plug, is Patrick Lencioni. And if you ever find yourself running an organization or a business and team dynamics is askew, go get every book that Patrick Lencioni wrote. They're easy fable form books. I mean, start with 5 Dysfunctions of a Team, Death by Meeting, The Motive. They're all great. And so I want to give proper credence to that. Mr. Jenkins found Patrick years ago, and he just became our model for that. And why I say that is Patrick is very much on the hungry, humble, smart. Gino Wickman, another great thought leader, says, get it, want it, have the capacity. But in hungry, humble, smart, let's break that down. We have hungry, we have our humility, and then we have our smart. And the smart is not the IQ, it's the EQ. And we test our leadership team, our management team sometimes. I've personally taken the test multiple times. And believe it or not, I've got a drive. Like I have a God-given drive. And I am very like, I will fall on the sword and tell you when I have really stunk it up. So I feel like I have a decent level of humility. I never look for the spotlight. But it's the EQ, that it's very hard for me. And so I have to constantly work on that. And, having a strong emotional intelligence is, being able to read a situation, understand the room, understand the context, active listening, reading body language. Mr. Jenkins is the master at that. Nobody in my life have I ever seen better, and I've seen some good ones. And so I still to this day, when I find that I'm getting a little bit off the track on EQ, I try to channel my best Mr. Jenkins and try to live in that moment because he has modeled that behavior. And it's just great that it lined up with the teachings that Patrick displayed to us through his many writings. So much so that, as a rookie president going back 10 years ago, I was really dealing with that. I had a great team, but the team was a little bit in flux and it was going to have to grow and potentially be a little bit remade. And the meetings at the leadership level were not as powerful that they needed to be. And so I was really struggling with that. And that's where Mr. Jenkins and I, found Patrick and really started to work on those principles with building a dynamic, high-performing team. And we're very honest with people up front. Look, if we're a growth business, then you better grow along with us. Because guess what? We're growing and the business may outgrow you. So in your time, if we're going to work 8 hours and we're going to sleep 8 hours, that's a whole nother 8 hours, right? In the 24-hour cycle. What are you spending your time on? Instagram? YouTube? Just sitting there watching TV? I mean, there's going to be a lot of things we have to do, but can you carve out time to work on yourself, right? Because if you don't, that's okay. We will be compassionate. We will be humane, but the business is going to continue to grow up and to the right, and we want you to be a part of that. But it's up to you to continue to grow with us. And so that whole EQ was a big part of that.
That's great.
Alan, because we're getting close here to the end, I think instead of asking some more questions, I want to connect with Jonathan on a point he made, and then I want to give you the final word.
Yeah, absolutely.
Jonathan, I married into a family where my wife's father is a football coach, high-level football coach, won a national title, wonderful man. He has 3 girls. And one of the things that I don't think that men who marry into a family that has a mixed variety can get the full appreciation for is what a father-in-law like you and I have can give. Because what I can tell you is that my father-in-law, Mike Tollison, who I love to death, has called me son since day one and has treated me not like his son-in-law, but his son. And I think it's because he had 3 girls and he was waiting for his son. So I just want you to know that I appreciate your story. And I think I very much understand the moment when they looked at you, because they did really see you as part of the family, not just the son-in-law. So I want to say thank you for your time and share that story with you. Alan, I'll let you close it up, please.
Yeah, Jonathan, I will tell you, it's so great to hear you honor Mr. Jenkins the way you do. And if I was Mr. Jenkins, I'd be so proud of not only what you've accomplished, but just the type of man you are. I told Todd before we came in to the podcast this morning, I said, you're gonna love Jonathan. It's just hard not to love him. You're such an incredible human being, and I'm proud to be a partner in the Wrench Group, also, Jonathan. But thank you so much. It's been a great hour. I've learned a lot, and look forward to talking to you again in the future.
Well, thank you, Todd. Thank you, Alan. Those are very kind words. Mr. Jenkins is alive and well. He is a very spry 76 years old, and we go to lunch a lot. I'm still learning from Mr. Jenkins, and for the rest of my days that he and I have together on this earth, I can't wait for the next lesson, and we'll pass that along. So thank you for letting me tell my story and be a part of this awesome podcast.
It's our
Thank
pleasure.
you, Jonathan.
Thank you.
Hey, thanks so much for watching the show this week. Head over to toddliles.com/mindset to get the show notes. Please make sure to like, subscribe, and follow so you never miss a new episode of the show. And if you enjoyed this episode, then share it. It really helps us get the word out. You've been watching the $100 Million Mindset with Alan O'Neill and, too late, Todd Liles.